gotta talk real fast because I'm watching a Full House rerun on TV. It's a commercial break. So I'm just gonna try to breeze through this really quickly. Already have a couple of videos on my channel where I talk more in depth about racism and some of the racial attitudes in America and why it's wrong, and the things that other people aren't talking about that we really should focus on. So I'll put links to those in the descriptions if you want some more in-depth thing. But here's all I'm going to say is like, the best way to combat ignorance is with knowledge. There are some people who simply refuse to be taught, but then those are the kind of people you just kind of have to try to avoid when you can. But there are also some people who simply don't know that what they're doing is wrong. They don't know that this is the wrong attitude or belief they have. This is the only thing they've known. This is what they learned from all the people they've been around in their lives. So it's not always necessarily their fault. So you always have to give somebody that chance. And yes, there are a lot of people who have all kinds of different biases. I myself make many different assumptions about the people I meet based on the things I see: their skin color, the way they're dressed, how old they are. There's nothing wrong with having these thoughts and ideas in your head. It's when you let those thoughts dictate your actions, when you let a certain experience you had in your past dictate how you treat everybody that bears similarities with this specific person who did something wrong to you. So like, I mean, there's nothing necessarily wrong with being mistrusting of a certain race necessarily. It's when you show outward hatred towards this race. Honestly, I don't have any problem with a white person who hates black people, but when that white person is a business owner who refuses to hire any black people, that's when it becomes a real problem. Okay, I mean, there's nothing wrong with having a bad attitude. It's your actions that really hurt people. The words you say, the things that you do. It's when you express these things outwardly. Because I can't really punish somebody for a thought that's in their head. We've all had thoughts in our head that, we never really let out into the world. So, it's hard to regulate that kind of things. It's all about the thoughts and the actions that you have, and blah, blah, blah. And there's just, like I said before, best way to combat ignorance is with education. So, if they're willing to learn, you just have to be willing to teach them. And it's just about being able to have the conversations. And like me, one thing that I'm trying to get spread around is that I've been saying this for like the past 10 years. I hate being called African American. Why? I have nothing to do with Africa. I was born and raised in this country. My relatives have been here since the slave days. I have never once stepped foot outside of this country. I feel like I should just be called an American. Like, why can't I call all you white people British American? Because that's where most of you came from anyways. Why can't I call you British American and German American and French American and Norwegian American and Russian American and Swedish American and all this other shit? Because, I mean, let's be honest. Every Caucasian came from a different country. The Native Americans were the only ones who were actually from here. And even they migrated from a different country, coming over on that land bridge. So let's be completely real here. Anyways, I mean, this entire country is immigrants. But anyways, shit. Commercials ending. Like me, I can understand being separated for the cases of medical things. I'll acknowledge that I am of African descent because yes, we don't get skin cancer. I can stand out in the sun all I want and never get burned. I've never once worn sunblock in my entire life. Worst thing that happens is my skin gets a little bit darker. That's the worst case scenario. And our best case scenario, depending on how you feel about your skin, because a lot of black people love really dark skin. I don't know why. It's just it's a thing that exists. A lot of black people are proud of their dark skin. Anyways, so yeah, but at the same time, we get sickle cell anemia. So for qualification purposes, when differences like that exist, then sure, I can understand needing that separate label. And African descent is the most I'll accept. But honestly, I hate being called African American because I'm just an American. I've got nothing to do with Africa. Don't lump me in with that, okay? I'm not from that country. I have no citizenship over there. I'm just an American. That's something that upsets me. But anyway, sorry, my commercial's over, so I've got to wrap this up really quick. And so yeah, links in the description to a couple of other videos where I talk more in depth about this subject and other things that bug me. Because this is something that I've dealt with in my life, but in all honesty, like, I mean, I've never had to deal with like blatant, like overt racism from like white people trying to oppress me or anything else. In fact, like, I'm not saying this is true of every single scenario. Each person lives a different life and has different experiences. But for me personally, I've actually felt more racism from minorities and people of color than I ever have from white people. And because like I live in South Texas, where the majority of people are minority. Like most people here are at least half part Hispanic. Like more than 50% of the population is at least part Hispanic. I think like people who are just white, who are purely Caucasian and nothing else, like that's actually the minority in this city. So and those people are afraid to be racist because they know the rest of us would all kick their ass if they said anything. So like for me personally, like I've felt more racism from people of color saying little things like little things that you wouldn't think would sound racist unless you really think about them. Like all of my black friends telling me how white I am. Because like I've throughout my entire life, I keep hearing that I'm the whitest black guy that they've ever met. People love to say that about me. You know, and throughout my life, I also hear things like, yeah, it's cool that you like hanging out with these white people. That's fine, all right, but you really should be back with us over here. You know, you need to be with your people. And that, you know, racism isn't just hating like one race or another. Sometimes racism is also just considering your own race to be superior to all others. Because that's what it was like way back in the slave days. Like if you look back in America, they didn't just hate black people. They hated Mexicans, they hated Asians. Hell, they hated other white people. They hated the Irish, they hated the Germans. But, you know, so yeah, that's the thing. So I've been talking too long. I'm gonna wrap this up. I'm gonna get back to watching TV. Links in the description. Thanks for the topic. Blah 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 blah. Bye.